Bonjour, my name is Lara and I'm a PhD student at Université Paris-Sud here in Paris. And my PhD project focuses on understanding the relationship between permafrost dynamics, the formation of thaw lakes, and emission of greenhouse gases in eastern Siberia. So permafrost is ground which remains frozen for 2 or more years. And the permafrost in our study site is continuous, very ice-rich, and can be up to 500 meters thick. And there's quite a lot of carbon which is stored in permafrost, the release of which has the potential to really strongly influence global climate. And release of carbon happens through permafrost degradation, which can be caused by both natural or human factors, like normal variations in climate, or forest fires, and clearing of land for agriculture and infrastructure. Once this permafrost degradation happens, it often results in the formation of thaw or thermokarst lakes. And these lakes are thought to be potential hotspots for the emission of greenhouse gases. So in order to understand all of these processes, we first had to categorize the lakes in our study site into 3 different types. And we did this using geochemical analyses of the lake water, as well as carbon dating of the lake's sediments. So the first category is the old Alice lakes. These formed in the early Holocene, 8 to 10,000 years ago. Second, we have young Alice lakes, which formed in the middle Holocene. And lastly, we have the recent thermokarst lakes, and these formed in the last few decades almost exclusively from human factors. And many studies which focus on greenhouse gas emissions from thaw lakes really focus on summertime emissions, but we wanted to understand any heterogeneity that might be occurring seasonally. So we went 4 times in the field last year, in the fall, winter, spring, and summer. And the data that we collect in the field includes basic limnology, so conductivity, dissolved oxygen, and temperature, as well as dissolved greenhouse gas concentrations from all the lakes in our study site. So when we look at the results, we can see that there is indeed quite a lot of heterogeneity, both between lake types and between seasons, for the limnological data, as well as the dissolved greenhouse gas concentrations. So for example, for conductivity, we can see that all 3 lake types have a higher conductivity in the wintertime, but especially the old Alice lakes. They really have quite a high conductivity. Next, we're looking at dissolved oxygen concentrations, and all 3 lakes have a very low dissolved oxygen concentration in the wintertime. And then if we look at these lakes in profile in the wintertime, we can see that some of the deeper lakes are actually stratified, so slightly warmer temperatures and very low levels of dissolved oxygen. Next, we're looking at the greenhouse gas concentrations, and for today we're just focusing on carbon dioxide and methane, and whether the concentration of these gases in the lake water is higher or lower than the atmosphere. This will tell us whether the lakes are acting as a source or a sink for these gases. So for carbon dioxide, we can see in the fall, the thermokarst lakes are acting as a source for carbon dioxide, quite a strong source, while the old Alice lakes are actually acting as a sink for carbon dioxide. All 3 lakes types are acting as a source for carbon dioxide in the winter, while they're all acting as a sink for carbon dioxide in the spring, excuse me. Next, for methane, we can see that all 3 lake types are acting as a source for methane for all 3 seasons. But again, we see that the young thermokarst lakes are quite a strong source for methane in the winter. And make sure you notice that the y-axis for the wintertime graphs is 1 order of magnitude higher than the other 2 seasons. So it's possible that the low levels of dissolved oxygen in the lake bottom in the wintertime is driving an anoxic bottom water environment, which is really good for creating and storing methane. And that's probably why we see these high methane concentrations in the wintertime. Also in the springtime, we saw a lot of growth in the aquatic plant life in these lakes, and these plants are using carbon dioxide for photosynthetic processes. And so they're causing these lakes to actually become a sink for carbon dioxide. They're pulling it from the atmosphere. So we can see that there's quite a lot of heterogeneity, as we thought, between season and between lake types. So just collecting data in the summertime isn't giving you this full picture of what's going on with these lakes. And we don't have our summer data yet available for analyses, but this will really complete the yearly picture of what's going on, how these lakes are interacting with the permafrost and global climate through greenhouse gas emissions. So that's all for now. Thanks so much.